Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to do a first impressions video of the brand new SMH Worms and the SMH Jighead. This is a new shaky head system from Z-Man. It was a collaboration between Brian Latimer and Z-Man, and I think they've really just hit a home run with both the Jighead and the Worm because, man, you know, they weren't trying to really reinvent the wheel with this, but what they were trying to do was perfect the design so you get the most action out of it, and you also get a jig head that presents the Worm in a little bit different manner. So let's start off with the SMH Worms, talk about this. So at first glance, it looks very similar to a lot of different straight tail designs. I mean, what can you do to a straight tail worm to make it kind of shine? But really where it shines is right here at that last half of the worm. You've got that kind of thicker nose that thickens out towards the collar, and then all of a sudden it really starts tapering down, and you've got this one portion about 3/4 of an inch from the actual tail where it's really skinny, and then you've got that bulbous tail. And what this is going to do, especially in conjunction with the fact that it's made of Elastec, is that when this hits the bottom, it's going to start raising up because it's very buoyant material, and that tail being a little bit wider and there being quite a thin portion of that tail right below it, that's going to allow this bait to really dance. I mean, the most subtle action that you add to this bait, that you shake that rod tip just a little bit, that thing's just going to shake and dance on the bottom. So you know, real simple design, but it was a very smart design. You know, you essentially want a bait when you're fishing a shaky head that has a subtle movement. It doesn't have, like, you know, a fluttering action or anything like that, but it still has a lot of action that you can impart on that bait, and I think they've really accomplished this. And one thing to keep in mind that I don't think enough people realize is that the fact that this is made of Elastec is a huge part of the attraction of this bait. You know, Elastec is not only ultra durable, but it's really soft, and so it really allows you to impart a lot of action to this, and it's also very buoyant. So when this bait is on the bottom, and the reason I can say this because I've actually seen this in the water at the Z-Man. They've got a tank that they bring to the different shows that they go to, and so I've seen this thing underwater. I've seen it in action, and what this does is because the material Elastec is really buoyant, it wants to stick, you know, straight up in the water column, and that tail is just constantly swaying back and forth. I mean, it's just got so much action to it. So I think they really hit the nail on the head when it comes to the design of this, especially when considering the benefits of Elastec. 15% salt content. That's definitely going to be a big deal. It adds a little bit of flavor, adds that weight, and so that's really important. And so that is the Worm. I think that they really nailed it. You know, you don't want to get too complicated with a technique that is supposed to be very subtle, like a shaky head. So that's the SMH Worms. Here's the Jighead. This jig head is actually pretty darn cool. You know, at first, you know, most of the jig heads that you see on the market are, you know, designed to stick straight vertically up and down off the bottom. You know, they've got like a ball head style design, or they've got, you know, a flat bottom where it's designed just to stick straight off the bottom. But when you really think about it, most creatures aren't feeding in a vertical manner. They're not feeding vertically off the bottom. They're actually kind of at an angle, you know, 45-degree angle. And so looking at this jig head, this jig head actually props up this bait to where even though the bait itself made of Elastec wants to stick straight up off the bottom, the angle of this jig head actually has it sitting at a 45-degree angle, which I think is a more lifelike and realistic presentation overall. The jig head itself has got really sharp hook. It's kind of a medium duty hook, so I wouldn't have any qualms with throwing this on 10, 12-pound test fluorocarbon and really wrenching on those fish. I don't think you're going to have any problems with that. But you can also throw, you know, 6 and 8-pound test and be very confident you get a good good hooking percentage with it. There's also a keeper. You know, a lot of Z-Man jig heads come with this welded on keeper, so that's legit. I know it works. And then you've got this egg-shaped jig head design. Again, it's made for more of a 45-degree angle presentation, but the special thing about this jig head design at first look is the fact that, man, I think this is going to be one of the best jig heads for fishing around brush, you know, in and around brush, because it's got that kind of like bullet-shaped, egg-shaped design to it that's really going to be very streamlined and easy to kind of work through cover like that. But it's also going to be really good for just dragging on the bottom. So if you're more of a dragger, that's the type of presentation you like, I think that this is going to be a really good jig head. But again, very simple, but they really accomplish some great things with that simple design. So that is both the worm and the jig head. Let's talk a little bit more about the worm, because I really want to kind of touch on some other things that it's going to do really well, or at least I think it's going to do really well. First off, you know, obviously fishing a shaky head, that's the most obvious one, because that was what it was designed for. But a Nico rig, just this SMH Worms just screams Nico rig. You know, it fits that Nico Shrooms jig head that Z-Man makes perfectly on the nose. You know, it's got a ton of action because of that tail design. So I think this is going to be a great Nico bait. And also, you know, just fishing on a Texas rig, you know, I'm going to give a shout out to some old school, like California techniques, brass and glass, you know, fishing a Texas rig with you know, a little 1/8 ounce tungsten weight, and also a little tungsten friendly bead on there, you know, in between the weight and the hook. That's going to allow for a little bit of clacking, a little bit of sound down there, extra, you know, attraction, and I think that's going to work really well. In fact, I actually already threw it down in Florida with that presentation, so that was something that I've already kind of tried a little bit, but that's definitely going to work. So really, any way you want to fish a straight tail worm, the SMH Worms is going to work really well. Carolina rig, light Carolina rig type situation, all that stuff. But anyways, that is the new SMH system from Z-Man. I want to hear your comments on this system, the jig head and the worm, and how you would fish it and what situation you're going to fish it. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Check out the SMH Worms and the SMH jig head at zmanfishing.com, or go right to the source, 44tackle.com. I know they've got them in stock right now. So thank you very much. I'll see you out in the water.